Everybody, so in this particular video we are going to talk about something called the WordPress request life cycle. What is that? So when you type your URL www.yourwebsite.com, a lot of things happen, and if that website is a WordPress website, there are things that are related to WordPress that are going to happen. So it's like your website is the WordPress install. All right, there's a lot of things that happen before that, of course, until it reaches the web server where there is the WordPress install. I actually have an article which I wrote some time back. The last time I remember I had a lot of typos in there, but I'm going to leave it as a link in the description so that you can go ahead and take a look at the general concept, like what exactly happens if you type a URL and then press enter for any general website. But that actually applies to WordPress website also, but there are other stuff that also happen because it is a WordPress website after all, so it has to do some special WordPressy things. And then you will also, okay, first of all, let me just go through the tools I'm using here. So I have my WordPress install here. So I'm logged in, so I'm going to just remove these things so that I have a clean dashboard. So this is my dashboard, another tip there. So I have my browser and a WordPress installation that I have opened as admin, and these two other tools. So we have this local, right? From this I have my WordPress installation, it's here, and then we have this one, which is Visual Studio Code, and I already have the whole installation open. So this is the installation open here, and this is the website that is open, the website that is running using this WordPress install. So if you go ahead and visit the site, I'm going to open this in new tab, visit the site. You will see that I'm just using the bare minimum. I didn't do anything. So this should be like the latest WordPress theme. Let me just confirm appearance themes. So this is the latest default WordPress theme 2025. That's the one I am using. So let's go back and visit the site. So the question is actually what happens if you type this URL. In my case, it's a local one. What happens until you actually see stuff here on the front end? And it's not just on the front end, but also here on the back end, on the admin area, whereby the URL has WP admin like this. So we are not going to concern ourselves much with the admin section. So if it's something that you are interested with, maybe we can also have a detailed walkthrough of what actually happens there. But it's more or less the same, really. And basically, like a request in WordPress can either be like front end or back end, right? And then if it's front end, it can be this normal one, or it can be the one requesting a RESTful API, right? Requesting the RESTful API. I think it should be WP JSON, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it is. So the RESTful API. So it's another front end request, and then there is the back end request, which is WP admin. All right. So now let's go step by step what happens. So I'm not going to be like super detailed, but I'm just going to give you an an appreciation of what exactly happens, and this is going to help you, say you are developing themes or plugins, especially plugins, to actually understand what really is going on with your plugin, like why is it running if it's running, and why is it not if there are issues with that particular plugin. So this is like, you know, like all these things that happen, they happen really in a split of a second. I mean, so it's like the requesting of your page here, it's a split of a second, and then your page is back. Your response is back, I mean, with the page. So here we are sort of like taking that and putting it into slow motion, and it ends up being this long video we are making here. So into what happens, we are going to just stop the ado now and get into what really happens. So if we type this one, what happens is when you hit the server, it's like the server is usually set up to look for an index.html or an index.php like this one. So this is exactly what it does. So it comes here to index.php. That is if it is a front end request, and if it is a back end, it comes into WP admin and looks for the index.php from in here. Where is it? I think it's arranged alphabetically, so it should be down here, right? So this is where it hits if it's a back end request. So this is the front end request, right? So if we actually remove everything, it means that we basically have stopped WordPress from moving on. It's like we have stopped the request immediately, and it just reached the index.php and returned with nothing. Okay, so as you can see on the screen, there is nothing here, and we can even do things like we returned with nothing, and if I refresh, it returned with nothing. So you can even do, you know, like more interesting things. Maybe you can create a coming soon page here, right? Coming soon page, create a coming soon page without needing to have a plugin. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but it's something that you can do. So let's return back. So we are here. So here is where it hits first. So like there is inside every file in the WordPress core, there is a comment. There would be a comment like this, and these comments are super useful because they actually document the WordPress code. So here they are saying front to the WordPress application. This file doesn't do anything but loads WP blog header.php, which does something, right? Which does anything, and tells WordPress to load the theme. Okay, so this part here actually is a constant that is being defined to actually load a theme. So if you come here, first of all, let's refresh to make sure that everything is back to normal. It is. If you actually come here and set this to true, it means that we are not using themes. Come and refresh. Maybe you are using something like, as you can see, there's nothing here. Maybe WP JSON. You are not using themes. You could be just using the REST API. Maybe that could be a good reason for not using themes. So if I come back here and then let's return it back to where it was. Okay, and also like what I'm doing here is something that you shouldn't be doing on a live site, of course. So you need to make sure that you are doing what I am doing. You're following along on a website that you do not mind losing stuff on. I think this should be something, this should be common sense, I mean. Right, so here this constant is defined, and it's not being used anyway. So there's this require, so it means that this is going to be used somewhere inside this WP blog header, or inside something that is going to be included inside WP blog header, or inside something that is going to be included by a file that is included inside the WP blog header, or even a great grandchild of this file, right? So this is how it works in PHP. So the require is like we have taken that code and pasted it all here. So it's more like we have one file, but then we can't have one file because it would be bad way of writing code. So we just use include here. Okay, now let's go to WP blog header and see what happens. Okay, before we go there, let's see. So this is the comment for this constant, and this part loads WordPress environment and template. Now let's go WP blog header. It should be somewhere in here. WP blog header. Where is it? CB, here, it's here. Right, so this is WP blog header. So it loads the WordPress environment and template. So what does it do? First of all, it checks if WP did header is set. Right, I'm not sure what this does, but probably maybe it just checks if we are inside this file. And then if it is set, these three things then happen. First, it loads the WordPress library using the require once. It will be inside WP load, right? It's saying require once because there's a potential that it might be required somewhere later, and if it is required somewhere later, it should give an error. So it means that it should be only required once here and should never be required again. In case that happens, there should be an error. Because what I'm understanding is like they are trying to remove the potential of trying to require this one again later on. And then the second thing is calling this function WP and then requiring once again this. We have a constant here, and then we have another constant, and they are all concatenated, and they are requiring this file here. I'm testing the opposite. I need to check if it is not set, right? Not if it is set. Okay, I need to test it outside here. Now it is not set outside here, right? This is what it is testing. It is not set here. So if it is not set, go ahead and set it. Right. So I think I was supposed to have a WP did header and set it to anything really. Maybe 1 or true or false, whatever. Right. If I did this, this is when we would actually have a blank page. Right. It was set. This one is saying if it is not set, that is when you actually go ahead and do this, right? Like I said, I am not sure what is the purpose of this variable. Okay, so here if we come to WP did header and then we set it to true, and then we require this one. They are saying it loads the WordPress library, the WP load, and then after that we call this function. So it means that this function happened somewhere in here. That's where it was declared. Because let's see. Let's try to actually do this. I think if we do this, we are going to have an error of this function not being there and us using it. And call to undefined function. Yes, it is the error that we expected. And if I come back and comment, what if I try to do this? I feel this one is going to, was the purpose of this one I didn't mention. Actually, the purpose of WP is to actually go ahead and get the data from the database, right? That's the purpose of the WP, getting the data from the database and more other stuff. So if you come here and refresh, right? Sorry, but nothing was found. Okay, sorry, but nothing was found. I think it is because we did not get the data here. Let me make sure first. Let me refresh again. There is something, right? So if we now comment it, right, it means we did not go and get what to actually display here, right? So this is the purpose of the WP. Now this part here, it loads the theme. So if we comment this one, we are going to have a blank page again because we don't have the theme to actually display the data we would have gone and fetched. So let's come here. You see, we have a blank page. Okay, so in short, we can say what is happening here is basically everything that happens that WordPress is doing is actually just summarized here. Okay, so first thing is it loads the WordPress library, right? It loads all the core functionality from here. Okay, everything that is in WordPress is here. It's loaded from here. And then the second thing is we call this function so that we get data from WordPress. The data to display, we get it from WordPress, right? And then this part here is the one that takes the data we got and then based on what type of data it is. It could be page, it could be post, it could be an image. Then this part here is the one that is going to actually decide and let us display something based on what type of content it is. Okay, right? So these are basically the three things that happen in WordPress. And if I'm to really go deeper, we can say everything that happens in WordPress is that these three things happen, and along the way, there are things called hooks. Okay, hooks do happen along the way. So it's like inside this core here, when we did our loading, when we load the library, along the way we are creating places to actually hook our code, so that our code would also run there. So there could be filter hooks or action hooks. All right, so we are going to see those things as we get even deeper, right? But from this point, I think what you need to understand is when you write code for WordPress, when you write a plugin, right, or a theme, what happens is that plugin or theme is sort of like being embraced by the WordPress code, by the whole WordPress core code. And when it's embraced, it becomes just a single code base, really. And then the actions and hooks that happen along the path of this request are also accessible inside themes and plugins, right? That part is actually implemented using functions. So functions can be called either before or after they are declared. So that's why the hook system actually works well inside WordPress. So basically your code is just treated the same way as this code we are seeing here, right? It's embraced and it's part of the family of WordPress, of the WordPress code. And then from there you can access hooks and do magic with that. So that is what happens. Now let's go deeper inside this once we are requiring this, right? WP load. If we go to WP load, where is it? It's here. So this is bootstrap file for setting the abs path constant. If you noticed here, I think we used the abs path, did we? Yes, it's here. It was declared somewhere here. Okay, it is declared here. They're declaring it here, and then they're setting the issue with error reporting. And what else? Now here they're setting up the WP config. Actually, they check if it's there first of all, and being there could be either inside the abs path dot WP config that is in here. It could be in the root directory, but the abs path, I think we've been told that it is the root directory, right, with a slash at the end. So if it is there, it could be there inside the abs path, or it could be there inside the parent of the abs path, right? So if it's there, right, require it. Okay, it's going to be required, right? It's going to be required here, meaning it's going to be put on the path of the request, and we are going to actually run the code that is inside it. And this part here is actually the else, which is for when it's not there, right? When it's not there, the setting up of that file happens, right? It also includes doing things like this, okay, including more files. And when that happens, at the end, we should have WP config at the end. When we reach here, we have the WP config, and we would actually require it. Okay, so now we are going to be inside the WP config. Where is it? Because I already have it, I think. WP config, of course I would have it. I would have it because this wouldn't be running without WP config. Right, so this is, so just take your time reading these comments. They are really, really useful, because this is where all the documentation happens, and it is really, really good. So this one, you set things like the table prefix, right? And things like important things that I left, that's here. The database name and the database user, the password, the host, the character set. And at the end of it, you're going to require settings. Okay, so I think this one, WP settings, is actually the one that does a lot of things. So you go to abs path, which is this one, WP settings. It's here, right? This is the file. Okay, so it does a lot of things. It defines another constant here, which is for includes, and it goes on to include another. Here it's using the constants. Here this one was defined already. I think it's being redefined again inside this one, WP config. It's here. Okay, so we are in the settings, WP settings. So it's more like setting up, right? So it's setting up everything here. As you can see, there's a lot of includes, and they are being taken from this folder here, WP inc folder, which if you noticed inside here, when they defined the constant, it's actually the WP includes. And then we move on, and WP initial constants, register fatal error handler, dead default time zone, WP fix saver var, right? You can always read more on these ones, right? Let's look for interesting things, right? We are having this one, database abstraction object is here. We are actually referencing it here, the WP DB constant. It's here because we've already required, we've already required or included a file that has it up there. Definitely, we definitely did. It's probably this one, functions. No, it can't be functions. Maybe there is classes. Is there classes? Or maybe class WP. I'm not very certain. You can go ahead and look around, but we would now have it. And then this one would include the WP DB class, and if present, a db.php drop in, right? Table prefix is being put inside the globals. Okay. Now register shutdown function, action hook. Here, if it's multi-site, include these things if it is multi-site. And I think these are, internationalization stuff, localization stuff, I mean. And then here, run the installer if WordPress is not installed. That is, if there is no, if there is no database, if there is no WP config, and the setting of the database and stuff like that. And then now load most of WordPress here. A lot of things are being loaded here, right? A lot of things. Okay, so there's a lot of actions and hooks that actually happen inside there. And as you can see, after that, it's interesting that they are actually using these actions that have been created inside these functions, right? So after setup theme, and then so these are like the after setup theme. All right, and then we'll move on. Another thing that is being added into globals, and then checking for multi-site again. Right, and then do action mu plugins loaded. I think we are loading must use plugins somewhere. It's here, so we are activating must use plugins. These are the first plugins to be activated, and then after that you can hook into this action, do action. Then we are requiring more stuff. We keep on going. Here we are loading active plugins. So here we are looping through the plugins. Okay, we are looping through the plugins. I think the active ones, we are looping through them. So here we actually learn that it's not a good idea to have active plugins that you are not using. Probably just deleting all the plugins you are not using is actually a good idea, because this one can pose a security threat, or even issues with performance, right? If you have too many plugins that you are not using. And then after that, there is an action, do action plugin loaded. Okay, and then what are we going to do again? So like I was saying that, your plugin code and your core, they are one and the same thing. Like this is what is happening here. So your plugin code is being added to play along with your WordPress core. Then we go ahead, load pluggable functions, right? Do action plugins loaded. Okay, when plugins are loaded, you can hook something to that, and this one you can use it almost everywhere. You can use this one almost everywhere, even inside your theme. Because like I said, the implementation of this was like, we haven't talked about loading themes here, right? But you can you can actually still use this one inside a theme, because like I said, the implementation of hooks is more like functions. So these functions, they can be accessed. So the functions can be accessed everywhere, whether before or after they are declared. Right. So we move on. What else is happening? We're talking about widget. There is setup theme here. I think that's this has to do with setting up the theme. Where is this happening? Before the theme is loaded. Yeah, this is actually before the theme is loaded. Your theme. Okay. There is WP load template text templating constant. Actually, like what they're talking about here, they're talking about the function.php inside the theme. The functions.php inside the theme. That's the one they are talking about, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Yeah. So here, yeah, they are actually now looping through the themes, and then I think getting the one that is active, and then they are loading the functions.php, as you can see here. Yeah. Then after that, there is an action which you can hook into. That is after setup theme. Right. Then there is init hook, initialization. So this happens, I think this is when you're actually about to go and get the data from the database. Right. Then do action init, initialization, and here WP loaded. Okay, so you have loaded you've loaded the WordPress library here, right? You have your plugins, your themes are already inside from here. Your plugins and your themes are already there, right? So you have loaded your WordPress. Okay, and then I think we are going back again. Is it inside WP blog header? Right, so the things are loaded here, and then WP function is now available. You can then run it, and then when you run it, that's when you can actually get your stuff, your data, and then you get in here. So this apps path is it's actually declared, like I said, it's a constant that is declared because we have come across this part. Now let's go to template loader. Right, template loader. So this part here, remember the theme and plugins, they are already there. Okay, the functions.php of the theme is already there, and then the plugins are already there. And then when we reach here, which one is the apps path, and then WP include, we want to look for template loader. Right, template loader. We come to include. No, I'm inside admin. I'm supposed to be inside includes, and then I go down and see RST. Template loader is here, right? If WP using themes, I think WP using themes has relationship with that thing, that constant that we defined. Let me try to open it and see if it's checking. Yeah, it's using that one, right? It's using this one. Actually, WP use themes. It's actually using it here. Right. So if themes are being used, okay, first of all, we have an action, template redirect. Right. Here you can hook something to this part here, template redirect, right? And then here they are saying filters whether to allow head requests to generate content, right? This is what they are doing here. And here now they are checking. Remember, now we have data. We are holding on data now. Maybe it's the post data that is returned. It checks if it's a robot, right? The robot presses, and if not, using themes, yeah. And then if it's favicon, if it's robots, it does this. Do stuff like hook things that has to do with the robot.txt. And then here, if it's favicon, do things that has to do with favicon. I guess the do favicon is a place where you can actually utilize in your theme, maybe for adding a favicon, probably adding a favicon or something like that. And then else if is feed, do feed, and then return else. If it's track back, do this. Then here, if we are using themes, okay, look at the template. If it is embedded, get embedded, embed template. If it is 404. So these are like functions that are being called, right? So I don't know what's the name of this style, right? I've seen it when you are using C actually, right? You can use, like structs, and then you are calling a function based on something that is here, right? And then, so here now they are looping through the templates, right? But then if it is attachment, they are doing extra stuff, right? Right? So here it's like they are calling the function that ends up, I think functions with these names, they end up being called there. And then at the end, there is apply filter also. Template include, right? There is a filter, right? So like filters and hooks and actions, they are all over the WordPress core. And when you are writing your extension code, that is themes and plugins, you are going to make use of those so that you are actually extending your WordPress. You don't come and start, like the editing from here. As you probably already know, you use your themes and your plugins to extend your WordPress. I think this was all. So I thank you guys for watching, and I'm going to see you in the next one as I go even deeper into exploring the WordPress core. So I am out.